I'm sure there was so much on your shoulders because one of the things, as I mentioned, even when phase 1 through 3 were popping, right? When all that stuff was happening, it wasn't really, and there was like a few villains that would come in and you'd be like, oh, that, like you'd have Killmonger or you'd have, I think Robert Redford was a really good villain, but a lot of the villains were kind of like hit and miss. And so we're in this phase where you're like, oh man. And I know that it's weird saying that because he's not a full villain all the way, but for the most part, he's the guy that they've got to face. And so, like you said, even hearing you talk about, because you just assume as an outsider, you know, watching this stuff, you're like, oh, well, he's an actor. He goes in there and, you know, and he's been around. He's been doing stuff for a bit. So it's every day walking in there. But no, you're sitting there now having to act with all these, as you say, legends, these people that have been in these things before. You're the new kid on the block, and you have to be this intimidating kind of villain. So, and especially when you have like this team that's full of these anti-heroes, they have these morally kind of gray characters, whether it's Yelena, Bucky, Taskmaster. Where does Bob Taskmaster, like where does he fit into the dynamic in your mind?
I mean, yeah, it was hard to kind of put a finger on, like, is, you know, the villainous nature of him, you know, and how far to go in that direction.
Yeah.
Because ideally you want to land in a place where the audience isn't so certain about you that they can't relate to you at the end, and that they can't connect to those sequences that we have at the end, which are really is going to be what ties the whole, you know, the whole movie together. And so that kind of balancing act was difficult. Like, obviously, as an actor, you know, I think we did do a lot of versions of him where he was a lot more kind of leaning into that kind of like more black and white villainous kind of thing, and it was not as safe of a place to kind of live with him, because you need to be able to still relate to him at the end of the day. And I think that, like, when I was doing that scene, like, it's so hard. What surprised me was, like, I was like, once, you know, when you're doing those things, if you're like melting a gun with your eyes,
Right.
or you are like pulling out a whole, like, you know, bar and you're throwing it across the room, how do you do that in a way that doesn't fully replicate what you've seen? Because, you know, I've just grown up watching these movies, and obviously, like, it's tempting to just be like, well, I thought it was really cool and he did it, I thought it was cool and she did this, and so I'm gonna kind of like do that. And you don't want to sing the same song twice,
Right.
and so finding what is true to me, Lewis, of how it would feel to do those things and to have that power, and how kind of intoxicating it would feel, regardless of the fact that you don't believe in the cause of your violence, right? And like, and he still kind of like has this muddied kind of moral compass at that very moment. And so it is like, but getting kind of drunk on that power was something I was like, okay, I think I can maybe imagine, because we all do. We all
sure.
are like, what would it be like if we could, you know, fly over here.
You guys did it. You did it. Trade Coffee is back. Oh my gosh. I'm so happy. I love Trade Coffee. They are my lifeline at this point. I love them so much because coffee it's an essential for me. And I know it's not just a drink. It's a ritual. It's a lifeline. It's the bridge between half asleep and ready to conquer the day. And if it's that essential, why would you settle for anything less than extraordinary? That's where Trade comes in. It is the #1 U.S. coffee destination. It brings you fresh coffee from over 50 of the country's top roasters. You take the quiz, and in under a minute, they're going to match you with your perfect coffee. If that first bag isn't quite right, Trade's going to replace it for free until they nail it. If you're headed out on summer vacation, with Trade subscription flexibility, you can pause it, or you can shift delivery while you're away and resume when you're home, ensuring you'll come home to great coffee. And that is exactly what I've been doing. I have gotten to a place where I got this massive, huge, big bag. And I'll be honest, I thought, I'm not going to be able to go through all this. Blasted through this bag because it's so delicious. And I'm showing it off to everybody. When people come over and they're visiting guests, you got to try this coffee. And that's exactly what I do. I got everybody talking about Trade. And that's why they came back. And right now, Trade is exclusively offering our listeners 50% off your 1-month trial at drinktrade.com/Christian. That's drinktrade, TRADE.com/Christian for 50% off your 1-month trial. drinktrade.com/Christian. You know why they're back, guys? Because of you guys. That's why they're back. You guys have seen how good they are. Get yourself some Trade. You will not regret it.